Oh, there's a handmade craft fair this weekend.
What is that?
Just like a bunch of handmade products and things that are happening in the Upper West Side.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So you
Really? Where?
where is that?
I honestly cannot tell you. I did not plan any of this. I was just asking. Yes. Give her money. She's gonna show up at my friend's house. Apparently there's like a racetrack right outside.
Is it just like the friend's thing or is it kind of like a bachelor?
No, it's just a friend's thing.
Okay.
I did like a vacation. So,
Isn't that kind of a situation?
not really. It's like we're going golf game. Racetrack.
What is staycation?
Vacation's pretty good state.
Staycation? Did you just ask what a staycation is?
Isn't that just like staying home?
Yeah. You're not working, so it's a
Nice way of
staycation.
saying it.
It's a way of saying you didn't do anything exciting and you just like watch Netflix.
I see. I thought staycation was just like you stay, you did like a vacation in the city and you live.
Oh, I like that.
Count
That's,
too.
That could be.
yeah.
That's your.
I guess if you went outside and you did some stuff in the city,
You
yeah.
live in the city, but you got a hotel room just so you
Ah.
can vacation.
I love that. Yeah. It's fun, yeah.
That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
Did you do anything fun this weekend, Joe?
No. Wish I had something to say. I'm just doing a staycation. Except I'm really staying in and doing absolutely nothing, like jogging or going to the park. Do you have the fair? Is that the fair you were talking about?
Yeah. I'm thinking about it. It's kind of far.
Where is it?
Upper West Side, like Williamsburg.
Oh my God, Williamsburg is like a billion things to do. You can't go down one block without bumping into a new trendy store.
I really want to check out the handcraft stuff.
Yeah, they have a
Do you
little.
want to see it or do you want to?
I want to check out like modern ceramics or like free. See what people have going on.
Is it like people have their own stamp? Yeah.
I get really lazy. Just stay at my different
So, I don't know. What shows do you guys watch? Right now, I'm not watching it. I have more time. Yes, I have so much time is there open up.
Wow, there's so I just looked up just like fairs, street fairs in NYC. I don't know, is it any one of these? These are the City, Nicholas Avenue, Mary Cooper Fair, 6th Avenue Shopping Spectacular.
Oh,
So-
maybe Spring Crafts Festival? Maybe something like that.
Is it? Is that there?
West Side of Broadway,
Yeah.
65 and 67. That sounds like it.
There you go. Oh yeah,
Right?
there you go.
It's on my list.
This one would be closer to you though, Flatbush, right?
Yeah. It's like deep into Brooklyn, and it's even hard to get to other places in Brooklyn.
Yeah. Flatbush nonetheless too. That's like one of the up and comings.
Is it?
Yeah. Williamsburg is, I think Greenpoint became, and I think it's so expensive in those areas that people are now pushing
Yeah.
further deep into it, and Flatbush parts of it aren't all that great.
Well, you're in New Jersey, right? No?
Queens.
Oh, you're in Queens?
Yeah.
I thought you were in New Jersey.
That was another Joe who teaches feud. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm in Queens.
Where's
Kew Gardens?
okay.
Yeah. It's nice over there. Maybe there's a street fair there I can go to. I definitely don't want to come into the city on my days off. Don't come into the city for anything. Oh, look, right here, Forest Hills, which is the next little town over. Now I have something to do on June 9th. Oh, yay, June 9th. Then I might put that right here. Otherwise I will forget.
Do you know if there's a deadline to ISD?
I don't know. I know Robert was going to apply.
Yeah.
I would reach out to them and get the process going.
Well, if I are aware of it.
Yeah. I don't know. Sometimes it's like somebody just joined last week. As long as they get the pre-work done, they're good.
Right.
I think it's a matter of interviewing. Like you'll meet with Clara, they'll ask you questions, they'll give you the pre-work. They monitor the pre-work. So if you don't get it done, they will reach out to you and say you can't start until the pre-work is done. It's a direct correlation between people not doing the pre-work and doing it between success in the class. So.
Yeah, I didn't realize I could start now.
I think you can. Like, I think they'll give you the pre-work because June, July, yeah. I don't see why not. In all honesty, the more that you do, the better off we want you to do more. Like people who are like, I'm just going to take the class and I'll start learning when the class starts or after pre-work isn't the attitude with this industry. The attitude is like, I'm going to start learning 6 months ago and now I made the decision to do this thing. That's going to consume all of my life. Hello. Who's that? Keith. Keith is remote. I think because of the rain, several people will be remote. All right. 6:30. 6:30. Let me get rid of this recording because this is the old one. Boom. All right. Do it. So we're going to be working with, we learned jQuery, right? What is jQuery? Which is $, grab something, do something, whatever those methods were, right? HTML, CSS, ATTR, all these are methods that allow us to both get and set things, right? So we worked with them last class. We know how to grab HTML and set HTML, grab a CSS attribute or target a CSS attribute, retrieve back its value. Same thing with ATTR, assign a property. We did IDs, but it could have been like the source to an image. Something like that. Anything that you assign as an attribute on an element, and we can assign, grab it, assign. Okay, and this will be important later when we're like targeting the image of an image tag. Like I had that city pics one where it's shown some of the things that we were gonna do. I show it here. I think I did have some of the projects here. I show all the projects. I forgot what I did with all the projects. Is it JavaScript? Let me see. Nope. In-class projects, right? Things like city pics, jQuery city, Mars, dropdowns, inputs. I think it's jQuery city. Yeah, something like that. Click, and these things change, right? So how do we know? How do we grab this image? Click on the image, know that clicking on that image changes, or we grab the image source, right? And then we apply that image source. We're going to be doing something similar to this, not this today, but we'll be doing something like that. We'll grab the color of something really simple with CSS. So we're working with click events. And let me just, I'll open up the click events, jQuery click events. So the click method, which is synonymous with the click event. There's different ways to assign click events. We're going to use a really basic approach right now, and then we can extend that. And then the val method, which is how you grab values from inputs. So we had these, we're going to get things from elements, and then ultimately, when we have an input, and we click on the input and we grab the input, we do something like whatever the input was. I'll just use its tag name dot val will then retrieve, once again, if there's nothing there, there's a good chance it's going to retrieve it. It'll retrieve the value that somebody typed in, which is a big part, right? A form, adding things to a form, capturing that input. So events are huge. That's why, you know, when we jump into jQuery, here's how you grab things, though. Let's click on things, because that's what jQuery JavaScript is all about. It's front end is like, you know, interacting with the user, allowing them to interact. Besides the fact that, you know, JavaScript is now used like with React to build front end applications, that's a different story. That's a whole mindset of application frameworks and architecture. But JavaScript in general, when it was born, was meant so that users could interact with the screen. So what did I do? Right, there was just a lot of stuff that we did last class. The reviews looked pretty good. I mean, most of them were really, really positive, and some, you know, 6 and 7s. It's just material. There's a lot thrown at you, and you're like, I didn't really get it all, right? It's a lot of practice. You got to practice. If you had done the jQuery stuff on Free Code Camp and you had done the JavaScript stuff, it would be a bit more intuitive, okay? At least I just, you know, that's why I signed it. So for a click events, now we didn't do it in JavaScript because in JavaScript you can see how long the syntax is for writing it in JavaScript, okay? This is a lot to write to add a click event, which is why we don't do it in this class. I mean, learning to do this is something like when you take the SEI program, they will do that. They will focus the whole unit on this. We don't even really cover jQuery in that class. But for a class like this, where users are new, want to get up and running with this stuff quickly, this just slows you down. The reason why they built jQuery is so that we as developers can implement things really quickly, right? So that's the intent. So when we do implement a click event, we are going to grab the tag name, whatever it is, right? It could be container, maybe it'll be just a button. So I'll say, hey, grab the button, and then I'm going to add a new method. This method will be a click method, right? And then we have to tell it what to do, okay? So this is just grabbing the element. We grab the element here, right, using jQuery. Right? This is our click method, right? This is our click method. And then in here, we have to tell it what we want it to do. Okay, so we have to run some code in here. And so what we're going to put inside of here is a function. We really haven't covered functions, and I'm going to introduce them, and we're just going to use them to put our code into. But in here, we have to run something. Run some code, right? And that's why we're doing the click event. Click on the thing, run the code. So this function is going to be something, and we're going to use a new keyword we haven't seen yet. We've used keywords like let's, bars, right? So just put a little vocabulary over here for some of the stuff that we've learned, right? So we have let's, bar, let's, consts, and bar. Those are keywords that we use to instantiate new instances of variables, right? So let, a variable name is equal to something, and then we have variables, right? Now we're going to learn the function keyword. Okay, and the function keyword will instantiate a new function. So I'm going to I said function here, but I'm gonna kind of get rid of function, run some code, and I'll just put here that it is a function, but we'll give it a name. Run some code. So I'm gonna say function, and in here we're gonna call some sort of function. It doesn't really say, it says some function, that's pretty ambiguous, right? So maybe change color. Here we go. There we go. That's going to be the name of the function. So I would create a function here using the function keyword, and it's going to have a name of change color. Just do this. Change color. Okay? These two are identical, right? Spelled exactly the same. Now, a function, so I'm just going to give you the syntax of a function, okay? So functions are like mini applications. So this function is a mini application, okay? And what we do is we put some code in here, and when we want to run the code, we call the function. That's really how it is. Right now, everything that's in our little script file runs immediately. If I refresh the page, every line of JavaScript runs. Okay, it's an immediate thing. JavaScript is meant to do that. The only way to pause the natural behavior of JavaScript to execute the minute the file is loaded is to put something in a function and then call the function later. Okay, so it's a mini application, and we call the function when we want it to run or execute. Okay? So what's important here is I'll use this over and over again. Call a function. Calling the function executes the function. Executing the function runs the code that is in here. Okay? So inside of these curly braces is really, I'm just going to put the 2 backslashes because those are our comments. I'm going to say this is our code block. This is where we put our code. Right? I won't discuss what the parens here are used for now. We're not going to use them. But think of this like a little factory that we need to get things into the factory and get things out of the factory. The way that we get things into the factory are through these 2 little parens. We'll discuss that later when we have something to actually put into the factory for our function, and then how we get things out. For right now, all I want to do is click on something, and in here, I want to change something, do something. The code block could have from 1 to infinite amount of code. However many lines you want to have in this function, you can put inside that function. It doesn't matter, okay? It's not best practice to do that. Functions should do one thing and one thing only, and that one thing should encompass perhaps 10 lines of code. If it's going to require more than 10 lines of code, consider breaking out something into another function. Okay? Because once again, functions are just these things. If I push the button, the thing happens, right? So maybe I have a bunch of buttons that I got to push. It's like on a rocket ship, you know, and they're like, click, 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 and they hit, you know. If it was just one button that they hit that started everything, right? But they have several buttons that are keyed off at certain times because those individual little buttons do other things that maybe don't need to be done right now by flipping the main switch, okay? So this is the construct that we're going to be using right now to attach a click event and then to do something, right? So there's 2 ways to do it where they're saying here, put the name of a function and then call the function. There's another way to do it, and I don't really want to do this, but this is an anonymous function. Why is it anonymous? What do you think the difference between the way this function is written and the way that I wrote it on the board? There's an extra set of letters. Okay. What's missing from this than what you see on the board? What's missing? Yeah, it's really obvious when I show it to you. Yeah, the name. So this type of function is a named function. Okay. Why is it named? Because it has a name to it, right? There's another type of function, and this type of function is an anonymous function. Okay, I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to write anon, because it's an anonymous function. And it doesn't have a name. And these kind of things you can't call by name. Right? The reason why I can call on anyone in this room is because you have a name. No one had a name, how would I address anyone? Right? It'd be really hard to be like, run that code. You know, like, how would you know which one to run, right? So there's lots of instances that we do anonymous functions. Once again, I want to give you context and grounding where we do it with names. Then you know how to call them by names. And once we kind of have some grounding, we can go do anonymous functions. So we will go here, and we are back to our little color switcher, where I don't have any code from yesterday. I will select out the code pen, fork the code pen. All right, the ultimate goal of this is, first, let's investigate what we have here. Not a lot of stuff. We went through this yesterday, right? The code is really, really basic, right? Simple, basic, some inputs, some buttons. And the ultimate goal is to add a click event to the buttons. This thing ultimately changes the background color, right? So if we were to just look at the color switches in here somewhere, right? Color switcher, right? So this is ultimately what we want to do. Don't look at this code because this is all React code. But I also do this. Bloop, bloop. That's what we want to do. Okay? We want to implement that behavior in our color switcher, which doesn't have any JavaScript. And so we need to add some JavaScript, right? These things have colors, right? These colors are coming from, I don't know, CSS, right? That's where I would assume these colors are coming from. If I go here, I look and I see, oh, look at these IDs. Gray button, white button, blue button, green button. They all have IDs here. And I even have a few classes. I think it was just practicing around some classes. But these are all IDs. So what we're going to do is create, or here we go. I'm going to walk through some of the steps that we would do to do the button. And this is kind of a process called pseudocoding. Pseudocode is when you have to approach a problem and you write the steps down that you think would solve the problem. And it's a big thing in learning algorithmic thinking, okay? We're doing algorithmic thinking in the day class, and they have to figure out some really tough problems, and they're not allowed to start working on the code until they wrote some steps. Like, what does the thing do? Like, what are you trying to do? If you can write the steps, there's a good chance you can write the code. But if you can't think it through, then there's no way. If I was like, here's some tools and stuff, go build a shed, and you're like, I don't really know where to start. How are you going to build a shed? In your head, you'd probably be like, I got to do this. I mean, like, do this. And then, like, you'd work it through in your mind first before you tried to do it. You wouldn't just start banging and then wind up with something that has to be taken apart. So the pseudocode here, I would say, is create. Everyone see that? I'll just make it a little bigger. Create a variable called, I don't know, maybe I'm going to do green button, okay? And the naming convention. The naming convention that I'm using here is called what? What type of naming convention is here where the camel case. So this is an example of camel case. Anytime where there's two words, the second word, the first letter is uppercase. This is how you write JavaScript code. Other languages, don't write this, but other languages might have done it like this. Some of them do it like that, okay? So maybe they'll do a dash button. Like other languages, their syntax is different. So I would create a variable called green button, right? And then set that variable to grab, or here to store the green button element, right? Or I think a better way, I'm just going to redefine this, to store the element with an ID of green button. That's better, right? When we write this code, we're writing it so that I can pull someone from out there who doesn't know what we're trying to do, who maybe even knows a different language. Maybe they know Python, maybe they know something else, and they could write this code. They could be like, all right, create a variable. Every language has variables. Cool. All right. Call green button. That's easy. What do you want me to set it to would be the next question. Well, I want you to set it to the element with an ID of green button. Okay, cool. In my language, this is how I grab it. Okay. And then I would say attach a click event that calls the, I don't know, change BGC. I'm just trying to think here. What do I want to call this? We have a green button because we're going to do this several times for green button, blue button, gray button, different functions. So we want to make change BGC green. How about that? BGC being background. I'm just not writing the whole. All right. We're doing everything right now the very, very long way. There's very more improved ways of doing this until you get the sense of this, which is actually a concept. This is a concept we'll cover later on. We're going to attach that calls the change green button. Okay, well, how about this? Create the change BGC button, right? And make it do the following, right? Because if we call, oh, we could have called it change color. But once again, we're going to have different buttons. In here is where we're going to have it do things. Okay, once we call the function, it's going to execute, and it's going to execute the code that we tell it, and now we're going to tell it exactly the code that we want to execute. So I'm going to do this since I'm inside of this function. I'm going to tab it over a little bit so that we can visually see that this is something that's nested inside of something else. Okay, grab the body element and set its background to green. Easy enough, right? Just set it to green. That looks like we would be able to do this, right? All the steps are here, right? Create a variable, set that variable, attach the click events, which will be doing this. This is the attaching the click event, which calls the function, have the function create the function, and then have the function do the thing. Easy enough, right? Seems pretty solid. So let's go ahead and do it. So I'm going to create a variable. Let is the variable keyword. Let green button equal to, I now have to grab the ID of the green button, right? So I'm just going to make sure, look, right here. Oh, look, here's green button. It's an ID. We're going to use jQuery to do it. Pound green button. We grab the green button. Not the blue button, not the gray button, but the green button, right? Now, you know, if I went to developer tools, I'm just going to see, is there any errors here? I don't see anything yet. The fact that I don't see the error message that $sign is not defined probably tells me that jQuery is loaded here, right? Don't do it. I'm just going to simulate it. I'm going to get rid of jQuery, load this thing, and I should, if the page refreshes, unless I added it here, yeah, it's in here and the script tag also, but I'm going to get rid of it there. It should error out and say $sign is not defined because jQuery is nowhere to be found because I stopped it in 2 places, right? So I'm just going to go back here and enable jQuery, right? Either or would work. Doesn't really matter where you do it. And then this error won't happen again, okay? Now that we have the green button, let's do the next thing. Set that variable to store. Oh, we did this. We did both of these. Set that variable to store. Awesome. We just did those two. Now attach a click event that calls change BGC green. That calls in, I'm just gonna add here function. I forgot to add function, right? They're gonna be like, calls the what? What is it called? If the minute I mention calls, anyone that knows JavaScript is gonna say, oh, you wanna call the function, because that's what you call. You always call the function. So I'm gonna go down here and say green button dot click, opening and closing parens, and inside of there I'm gonna say change BGC green. And I'm gonna get an error here that's gonna be like, hey, BGC is not defined. Similar to the $ error, like $ is not defined. The reason why it's saying that is because the change green thing does not exist on this page yet. And so the code is like trying to find it, make sure that it's there. It won't run it just yet, but it's trying to make sure that it's there. So we are going to now create that function. We're up to this line 4. Line 4 is create the change BGC, the change BGC green, not the change BGC button, change BGC green function, and make it do the following. Okay, I'm gonna save this. So let's use the function keyword, change BGC green, opening and closing parens, open and closing curly braces. Okay, I'm gonna get rid of my error messages. If I refresh this, I should see no errors. Okay? What I want you to do also is in developer tools, pay attention to developer tools, because if you are erroring out, if you made the mistake here and did, you left off the N, this thing should error out again. Change BGC green is not defined, right? So just always clear out your error messages. You see that little symbol right there? That clears out the terminal error messages. Okay, that's important. I always do that. When somebody calls me over and I have all these messages, I'm like, clear out the thing, because I could look and the error message isn't there anymore. These are like messages from 10 minutes ago, right? So I'm just going to say this clears out console. Okay? It'll clear out console errors. It'll clear out anything that's there, because we can actually write JavaScript in here if I wanted to. I could create variables here also if I wanted to. I could say, I don't know, let num is equal to 10, boom. Right? That's not an error. I could call the num, I would get 10. Right? And I just want to clear it. So, no, it's not clearing now. That's weird. Let me refresh it. Should have cleared it. All right, cleared. All right, so now we're going to grab the body element. Right? So I'm going to say $, parens, single quotes, and I'm going to grab the body element, right? That's pretty much what this thing is, right? It's the body contains everything on this page. So the body is this whole thing right now. And if that's the thing that I want to change the color to, then that's what I'm going to grab. Now we want to set that element's background to green. So we have these methods. Which one of these methods would do that? CSS. This is a CSS thing. We're not adding HTML. We're not setting an attribute. We're doing .css. Parens. And we have to give it two things. The name of the property and the value that we want to set that property, right? So in quotes, I am going to say background. Now you could do background color. That's an appropriate. Or you could abbreviate it and say background. I'm going to say background color just so that we have context. We know that we are changing specifically the background color. But background is short and it takes in multiple properties. And then I'm going to say light green because that's the actual color. Right? If I look to your color switcher is light green. Okay? I'm going to save it. Okay. So here we go. You ready? Just click on the green button. Yay, right? It's pretty cool. When you start interacting with the screen, it becomes really cool. You know, maybe doing grid and flexbox was just like, oh my God, this is crazy, these layouts, right? But I could have a basic page that I add interactivity to, just a div that I change colors and add things, and that's kind of cool. Creating a little slider where things slide in, like that's fun. Maybe doing a responsive site, there's a lot of frustration there if you don't do it right, right? So we have this, and that wasn't so hard, right? With only literally 5 lines of code, we're able to change the background color, okay? So you're gonna create the next one. We just did this, right? Should be easy enough. Create this syntax one more time. That grabs the blue button and changes it to light blue, okay? And what I would suggest is write it out. In the end, there's a temptation just to copy and paste and change things. And yes, if I had to do this 100 times, I would copy and paste. But you don't know how to do this right the first time right now. So you're learning how to do that. So take a moment. Okay. Just put a thumbs up there when you get the blue button doing its thing. Do it. Sure, yeah. We don't in this instance. We could have just like you did body, we could just call it that. I'm doing it for practice purposes. Like later on, we won't be doing that. We'll just grab the thing, unless we wanted to do something different with green button later on. You wouldn't need to do it. Okay, so looks good. 5 completions there. Sweet. About 9. And I'm gonna kind of walk through it. So here we go. You say let blue button equal to $, parens, single quotes, pound blue button. We grab the blue button. All right. Now we're going to do blue button dot click and then change BGC to blue, right? We have to change the function in because the function is doing something different, right? Okay. Create a function called change BGC blue, opening, closing parens, opening and closing curly braces. That's the structure of a function. Grab the body using jQuery.css, background. This time I'll just do background just to show you that it works just as well. Light blue. Light blue is the color. So if I do this, I do green, didn't break anything, do blue, awesome, it works, right? And so doing this with the rest of the buttons, fairly easy process. It's simple to do this if you follow the pattern. And what we're doing here also, and I'm trying to emphasize this, the repetition that we're doing here, this is repetition, and we don't need to do all this repetition. There's better coding practices that would allow us to wrap all this up into one function, run conditional logic, but we haven't gotten to that stuff yet. So I'm like, I can't throw new stuff at you just because there's a better way to write this.
And doing it the long way, I'll be right with you, Darren. Doing it the long way also emphasizes this. When you see patterns like this in JavaScript or coding languages, your brain is going to say, hey, there's got to be a better way to write this. Like, that's a lot of code. They're all doing the same thing. We're pretty much like grabbing each individual button. What if I grabbed all the buttons at one shot and just like when you clicked on it, I could discover what the color was assigned to it and then just grab that color and assign it. Like that's the thing that can make this better, right? Once again, you don't know how to do this, doesn't matter.
Just a quick question. So for after it says like either the green button not click and then or the blue button not click and then we have the change BBC blue.
Yeah.
That function name, you made up that function name, right? And it could be literally anything you wanted,
Yes.
as long as it goes down the next file.
Yeah, these two have to be the same, but the naming convention of this is whatever you want to call it. Now remember, when you're writing your code, you're going to want to write your code so that it's intuitive, so that the next person that comes and looks at your code is like, oh, this makes sense. I call the button pickles, and I'm like, well, what does pickles do? I don't know, change the background color to green. Like, that makes no sense. Like, you're the only one that understands that. And on line 300, I see button pickles running. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense, right? So these things, like the variable name, should be intuitive. So variables like x and y aren't intuitive, right? Most people do that. Hey, let x is equal to 10, and then let y is equal to 5, and then x times y. Right, that's great for like algebra. That doesn't work here when you're writing code. Did you have a question, Dylan? Oh, thought you might have a question. Okay. So, easy enough. I'll just do it one more time. Once again, just kind of simulating this process. Let gray button equal to gray button, right? Easy enough. Create the button, gray button, dot click, change gray, change BGC, I'm sorry, BGC, gray, and then create the change BGC gray, and we grab the body, it's CSS, oh, gotta have that in, so we'll go to background, and I think this is just gray. I think that's why I didn't do any light grays or anything. So that button still works, that button still works, and that button still works. They all still work, right? The only one would be this button, okay? Once again, the pattern's there. We see this, okay? So creating these things isn't so hard, right? I'm gonna go back and we'll discuss the other events listeners too. Jumped right into the click event, but there's several other event listeners that we could attach. Okay. Awesome. Pretty simple. If we wanted to get the background color, so say we wanted to emulate this. Now, I mean, I know that the background color is green, right? I know that it's green. What if we wanted to get the background color of the green button? How would we have done it in here? What if I was to say, let color or let green is equal to, how would I use the green button variable to grab the background color of the green button? How would you do that? All right, do we have the green button? We have a handle on it, right? Green button is stored in here, green button. So what if I said green button, because we have it, and I did dot CSS background, just do background. Background, I'm gonna do background color because it really is specific. What would that return? Well, how about this? Anytime you want to see what something returns, we did a lot of this yesterday, right? Console log. Hey, and I'm going to say, this is green. Right? And I'm going to console log it. I'm going to go here, and there's no errors. I click on it,
And look, we wrote light green, that's a setting that I gave it in CSS, and it's giving us back RGB. Just so that you know, the color that's returned back to us, I stated that that color should be light green, right? The word light green, not RGB green. So just know when you get stuff back, it may not be in the form that you expected. This is light green. That's the exact shade of green that this button has. It takes light green, converts it into RGB, and it's like, oh, that's the RGB color. I'm just saying, if you ever want to like concatenate a string of like, this button is, and you think it's going to say light green, it's not going to say light green. It's going to say RGB14, and like no one's going to understand what that means unless you understand these colors. Okay. What I'm trying to do also is emphasize how CSS here, we used it as a getter, and we could use it, we used it as a setter here, and now I'm using it as a getter to get the color, okay? So we know that it was light green, but imagine there were lots of buttons here, and we had all these buttons defined, but I still don't know the exact color that I'm going to assign it to. I may need to grab that thing, right? And this is a question Maria, you just asked me, like, do we need this? So Maria asked me a question and said, you know, do we really need to store a green button in a variable? The first time we did it, no, we did not. Right? I could have taken this and replaced it here. Taken this and just moved it here, and that would have been fine too. The reason why the reason why we're doing it is because this is good practice, right? Creating variables over and over and over again, getting this syntax down so it's locked in. But also, you may need to reuse the green button again in other places. And if we're going to reuse the green button, then let's grab the green button. So now that I have it, I can replace light green here with green. Now, I could have done this more generic. Maybe I don't know what the color is, so I could just say color. Okay? So walk through it one more time. We created the green button to store the green button element. We added the click event that calls change VGC green. Here's change VGC green, the function. We created the function. We then set a variable that says, hey, let the green button, let's grab the green button that we stored over here and get its background color. It returns back the background color. Now that I have the background color, I can use this color to assign here. Right? Once again, let's make the assumption that we don't know exactly what the real green is. I said light green, but as a computer, the computer doesn't know what color it is. Like, you look at it and you go, oh yeah, that is light green, and I saw in the CSS it's light green, so I can code it as light green. But what if there were 1,000 buttons here? You think the computer's like, you're gonna be like, oh, that's this particular shade of purple, and that's a particular shade of orange? You're not gonna be able to do that. You have to assume that the computer can't see anything and it only knows what it grabs and then it does. That's it. Okay, that's the reason why when we write the pseudocode, we write them as steps, individual steps, to assume like you can't see things or do things. Like the computer needs to grab, touch, examine, and then do, right? It needs to do that. So this is an important step. So try doing this, what we just said. We'll do it again with blue button, and then I'll let you do it with gray button. So I'm going to save this. So in the blue button now, here, I'm going to create a variable called color. Let's color. Creating a variable. That variable is going to be equal to blue button. And then we're going to use the .css method to grab its background color. Okay? I grabbed its background color, it's stored in the color variable, and then on line 18, my code, once again, I added stuff, you may not have added stuff, I'm going to get rid of the hard-coded light blue color and put color. And if I save this and run it, it works just as good, okay? I'm also doing this for a reason to show you that, see how I defined color here and created color here? Those are the same variable names, okay? And because they are in this function, this protected area, okay, this protected area says, hey, whatever in here, no one can see. No one outside of this, like a little party going on here that nobody else around here can see. We can call the function, and then the function runs, but no one knows what's inside this code. Like, we know it because we see it. But the rest of the JavaScript code that's out here has no idea what's happening inside of here. The only things that know what's happening inside here is the code that's inside of here. So this variable of color lives in this function, and this variable of color lives in that function. And the fact that they live there and they're not available outside is a concept called scoping it. So a concept of scope is like, hey, and you understand the concept of scope. If I was like, we're going to do this project, we're going to blah, 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 and you'd be like, whoa, hold on, what's the scope of the project? What do we have to accomplish, right? You would limit the thing to the essentials, right? You would scope the project. You wouldn't be doing additional things that aren't in scope. So a scope represents the accessibility of these variables or that code to where it's located, okay? So these are only accessible here. These are only accessible there, okay? Nothing outside of that. If I was to go here and just outside of that function, if I said console log color, this thing would break. Color is not defined. And you're like, wait a second, I see color right here and I see color right there. How is that possible that color is not defined? When I added the console log in here, color worked, right? It worked perfectly fine. If I move this and I put it in here, right? I'm gonna get rid of my error messages and I'm gonna say inside of change BGC blue. All right, I'll just do that. And if this runs, console log, let me get rid of this error message. Is it gonna keep erroring? Oh, we have to execute it. You see how none of that code worked? I put a console log, it didn't run. It didn't run because this code doesn't run until you do what? What's the word I keep emphasizing? Click, or even if I clicked, we still have to call the function. Till the function is called. Clicking it, you know, unless you put the function in there to be called, clicking on it isn't going to make it happen. The function needs to be in there. So the fact that I added a console log here and I get nothing, but if I was to, I'm going to put this outside, but before I put it outside, I'm just going to change the context of it. I'm going to say outside of change blue color. Now I'm going to go here and I'm going to put it outside, and the first thing that my code's going to do is error and say color is not defined. And once again, we're like, color is defined. It's right here, right? Now when I click on the blue button, look, inside of change blue, it gives me back the color, right? So it works. So just know where you define these things will make it available outside of where you defined it. Okay, anything defined at the very top of your code here, this variable is accessible in this function. It's accessible in this function because it was defined above. So everyone looks up and like, oh, you want me to do like green button? Okay, cool. You don't have a green button in here. Cool. Is there a green button here? Is there a green button here? Is there? Oh, look, boom, green button. So we look up in the file that we're at. Okay. So we just did this, right? Okay, do the same thing with the gray button now. Take a moment, grab the color. This is important because you're going to be doing and changing CSS just a little bit, and I'll get to the lab. You're going to emulate exactly what we did.
I'm just showing you the two things that we did here. If you want to do console log 2, suggest you do that. Console logs are good. Okay? I'm just going to get rid of my console log so the two functions look identical. I'll get rid of this console log too. Okay? Both of them are identical to one another. So it's really hard to kind of make a wrong turn here. It will happen, but it is hard. Really easy. Should take you like a minute to do that. Once again, after a while of doing these repetitive functions, I almost want to copy and paste, change the name of things. It's easier at that point in time versus writing this stuff out. It's easy to make mistakes. Cool. So these events, pretty intuitive, right? All right. Any questions on the events, on this one particular event? So two things were introduced here. Click events, right, and a function. I'm trying to keep the functions as basic without spending like an hour or half of the class going into functions and putting things into functions and getting them out, which we ultimately will do, but right now, for the sake of like conveying click events, we're just dumbing down functions so that you can use them at their most basic level and feel good about, oh, I know what a function is. I call a function and it runs the code. Feel great. It's awesome. It's a good feel moment there. So, oh, I get rid of that, right? Doink. All right. So, we're going to do lab. I think what we should do here is the lab's going to be about 20 minutes, maybe 25 minutes, depending. And I want to walk through some pseudocode to help you along the way to get you started. Because once again, this is all new. You're like, this is great. I just did all this. And like, you walked me through it. Now do it on your own. And you're like, I don't know how to do it on my own just yet, right? Why don't we take a 5-minute break, come back, I'll walk you through the pseudocode to get this done, and then you'll create your own traffic, the most amazing traffic light. You ready for it?
Oh yeah.
This is the stuff you're going to be doing. But it's going to happen like 10 times faster. It's going to be like, blah, blah, blah. You did the reading last night, create the buttons and add them. And you're going to be like, whoa, 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 slow down.
That's fine.
Yeah.
It'll pick it up in time.
It'll be fine. You'll pick it up. Sweet. Put it however it is that you aggregated your drawing, just one picture or something, it's multiple pictures, and put it like in a Word document or something. Just put a link.
Should be like, well, like, can I take a picture of it?
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, take a look at how some of the others have submitted it. It's just that if you drew it over here, we drew it on paper.
Yeah.
Take a picture of it
Like,
and
scan it.
yeah, scan it, or just like put the. You can take your image because we have cloud in it, right? So early on we created cloud in here, the account to upload images. You could upload your image there and just put the link in the thing. Yeah, I just need something to visually say.
Okay.
Doesn't have to be perfect.
Okay.
But this is really good. I already have it on board. That's hard. How do you do that? Yeah, just about to do the schedule. Oh, okay. I knew you were doing it. I was like, oh yeah. No, surprise. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I actually just started rewatching it. Really? Yeah. What? Well, it's that and like season 7. I went like a year or two before watching it, and like yeah, I watched like season 7 when I first. So like there's a lot of stuff that I just forgot. I'm happy I rewatched. I started watching season 2. There's so many like good better like, and it makes me okay with a lot of stuff. There's a question Brand was like in charge. Like in 4 seconds. Actually, and then this one I rated it like immediately. I'm the season for the first place. Yeah, yeah. You saw it also. Yeah. It's just like you can see that he was like perfect, you know, like a great person. But he also like we didn't see this as very good. Right. And then you think it's like there's like a lot of like little lines and stuff that he, you know, like yeah, you know, when he says that, like little things. That's yeah, yeah, it's just like little things that you pick up. That's wisdom. That's the one. I did watch it. Here's some things that they call that. That would probably be way easier to rewatch the entire series. Yeah, she did that. Well, like she just left. Right, but she and then that was it. Yeah, but I watched it. Yeah. How was plot? They did. Yeah, I forgot. I would have loved it.
That's cool.
Dragons. Yeah.
All right.
It was trying to be like pictures of Chinese witches. And it dies like 14 times.
Like Narnia.
Yeah, just a little bit less Christian. A little bit more X-rated. Yeah, there's a lot more of that. Yeah, there's a lot of moving in the first thing forward and then a lot of I really glad that here. After like the first few seasons, that was my favorite part. And this is a very certain contract. Surfers and monsters. Yeah, just in between the first things. And they just said, hey,
No, are there like differences in people that?
well, like one of the middle bosses.
All right. So let's go through this. So this traffic light is, let me see if I had it here as a project. Traffic light. Ultimately, this is what it's going to do. Acts like a traffic light. You hit stop. Oh, instead of changing the background color, what do we change? Just that element's color. If I hit slow, it not only has to change this, but it has to change that back to black, right? So if I go to go, same thing. It has to change it. They all have to be able to change the other ones. Whatever one you click on needs to be able to say, you clicked on me, I will set this thing to red, and then I have to set the other two, whichever they are, to black. That's what they have to set it to, right? Because these don't have any color to be like, grab the color, and then we can set it, right? That doesn't exist. Okay, so that's the ultimate goal. So in here, let's kind of walk through the pseudocode, right? Okay. So let's first just examine the HTML, right? HTML has a control panel here with things that are called like stop button, slow button, go button. So we already assumed we could probably grab each one of those buttons individually, add click events to each one individually, right? 3 click events, just like before. We had 3 click events. Should have had 4 because we had a white button too, right? Okay. And then here is our traffic light. So there's an idea of stop light, slow light, and go light. Okay. Now, and there's also a class of bulb too. Okay. That may come in handy too. Grabbing more than one thing, right? So if I was to work through some of the pseudocode here, I would probably say, create, and I'm gonna, maybe we'll do this. Instead of doing each individual line, I'll say create variables called, I don't know, stop button, slow button, go button, right? 3 variables. Okay, set each variable to its corresponding element using its ID. They all have IDs, right? They're all H1, so that's probably bad design there. I'm just using something from a previous thing. I wouldn't use H1s here, but once again, okay? Once again, that's what we're doing. So we have our buttons set and ready to rock and roll, right? Okay, I would also do this. Create variables called stop light, slow light, go light. Okay, and once again, set each variable to its corresponding element, using its ID, right? Targeting its ID. Different ways you could semantically say all this stuff, but we know what we're talking about, right? I'm going to create 3 variables. Each one is going to grab this thing. This is called stop button. The next one will grab slow button. We have a handle on the thing. Then we're going to create the variables for these things, right? Okay. Maybe now let's attach click events to each button that will call a, let's go to the next line, corresponding function, right? So that one's called stop button. Maybe we'll just say stop, slow, go. Those could be our function names. So once again, each one is going to be attached to its corresponding thing, okay? 3 buttons. Right now, we're up to like 6 variables, 3 functions, right? It's 9 things that we're doing, okay? Within, okay, so add the following logic to each function, okay? This is our logic, okay? Set the I'm gonna get rid of, set the BGC of the corresponding button to its color, right? So if I click on stop and I'm in the stop function, I set the corresponding button or the corresponding variable, corresponding light. Here we go, I'm sorry. VGC of the I'm going to spell this right. Corresponding light to its color, okay. And now we have to set the other lights BGC to black, right? This is our reset, okay? Now, there's 2 ways to do this too. So this is option 1. So I'm going to just do this. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to say option 1, and I'm going to give you a second option. So this would work, and I'm just going to say for option 2, maybe this could be the bonus, right? You know, add the following logic to each function, right? I'm going to flip this and say here, I'm going to do this. Just let me type it out first. Grab all the, see how we have class of bulb? Grab all the elements with a class of bulb and set their BGC to black. Okay. What's the difference between the 2 options? Once again, do it like this and then maybe go back and refactor. I kind of reversed some order here. When I say on line 12, set the other lights to black, how many lines of code do you need to do that? Well, 2 lines of code, right? Because you already grabbed, you have a variable for this, a variable for this, and a variable for this. So I would need to grab this variable, .css, background color black, grab slow, .css, background color black. Because I clicked on go, this would turn green, right?
So now, if I go here to option 2, and I say, hey, grab all the elements with a class of bulb, all 3 of them, set their VGC to black. What happens? If I click on go, what happens when I do that? I'm grabbing all 3 of these, and I set them to black. What happens? Yeah, they go black. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. I feel like I'm asking questions. Everyone's just like, I don't know, what happens? It's like, all right, then what happens on line 18? Exactly. There's a technique here where sometimes I will grab all the things instead of grabbing unique things and setting. It's like, hey, we all have the same thing. I'm just going to set us all to black, and then I'm going to set the thing that I targeted to the color. Okay? 2 options here to kind of work with. Kind of work with this one, and if you got that one down, try this one. You want to try option 2 too? That's fine too. Right? We know how to grab by class. We did that last class, right? Grabbing something by class is just doing this, right? Dot bulb. This would grab all of the elements with a class of bulb, right? Doing something like this in ID grabs one thing, right? So go light is one thing. This is many, it could be many, and this is one thing. That's the difference. Classes are assigned to multiple things, IDs are assigned to one thing. JavaScript will stop. When you use an ID, it only grabs the first thing that it finds with that ID, and then it stops. It doesn't do anything more. Okay. So, slack this out. That's our code. Here's all the steps to do it. Fork the code pen. So once again, you have your own copy. I'll put here a click, thumbs up when you're done. And bless you. I'm going to give us 20 minutes. 20 minutes. Now I'm going to put up, I like what I do also here is, I'm going to move this traffic light starter over here. Here is our other code. All right, this is what we did earlier. Okay? You might find some of this stuff useful when you're coding out your stuff, right? Grabbing buttons, setting event listeners. Stuff's pretty intuitive, right? If you do get lost, I'm adding some code periodically to give you a chance to try. And if you kind of get lost, you can look back up and be like, oh, that's what I was supposed to be doing. Oh, shit. Oop, I did the wrong thing here.
this stop button. Oh. Made a mistake with the functions. That's it, the wrong thing. Okay. Shoot. So if nothing's working for you, and you didn't go to developer tools, shame on you, because I cannot emphasize it enough. But look, what does this mean? Yeah, what is that? So jQuery is not imported yet, right? You would have to go to the gear icon and just import jQuery. Okay? Once again, if things are not working, you go to developer tools. That's where you go. Have it open when you start coding. 20 minutes. Just fixing the last one here and then. Oh. Oh, is that this whole, from here I can't see it, and I'm like, what? This thing should work. So let's see what we got. All right. So we'll go through it. I think I had a few typos in here. So if you typed exactly what it was, you might have some issues. I think I left out the pound sign for one of these, but console logging things, that's how I discovered console log stuff. So if things don't work, we console log, always console log. Something you clicked on and you don't see any error messages and you're like, why is it not working? Console log and make sure that you grab the thing, okay? We create buttons. We're following our logic. Create 3 buttons, right? And this logic is exactly what we wrote, right? Create variables called stop button, slow button, and go button. Set each variable to its corresponding element using its ID. Stop button, slow button, go button. Create 3 variables called stop light, slow light, and go light. Set each variable to its corresponding element using its ID. Stop light, slow light, and go light. All right. Now we'll go down here. Attach a click event to each button that will call a corresponding function. Stop, go, and slow. So stop button, click stop. Slow button, click slow. Go button, click go. Okay? We could have organized them all together. I mean, I'm trying to organize them as they aggregate them, but I could have done this also. Once again, have the 3 buttons, have them doing their thing. Here's the supporting functions. Okay, however you want to organize. I was just kind of like put everything together, kind of makes sense, right? So now we have then stop is here. Create the function, right? Add the following to each function, so we know we have to create the functions. Set the BGC of the corresponding light to its color. If I click on stop, I grab stop light, CSS background, set it to red. Grab the other 2, set the other 2 lights backgrounds to black. Right? At this point in time, once I have the structure of the functions, all I do is copy, paste, and then change slow would be yellow, and then both of these would be black. Go, 2 blacks, and a green. Spelled correctly. If it's not spelled correctly, nothing happens. You don't get, sometimes you just don't get an error. Like, I had misspelled green and I had 2 N's, and I just from here I couldn't see it. So I'm clicking on this and it's not working, but this works and that works, and I have to like, what's happening? My first instinct was like, did I grab go light? Did I mistype it? So I console log, hey, this is go light, and then I put go light. If I click on this thing and the output is that, I grab the element correctly, I assign the click event correctly. So this tells me the click event is functioning. There's something wrong here. Once again, from over there I couldn't see it. But even then I was puzzled, like what's going on? So closer look, you can tell that that's not working because it's misspelled. So 2 E's, and we should do it. What's that? Oh, it's 2 N's, yes. 2 E's, see that? See how easy it is just to keep factoring anything? So now it works, right? Boom, boom, boom. Okay? One thing I want to emphasize here, and I'm trying to do it up here as often as possible, console logging and developer tools. Those 2 things, if things do not work, immediately go to developer tools and the console. Immediately go there. When you open your project, the next time we start our lab, I'm going to have you open up developer tools before we do anything. Before we pseudocode anything, here's developer tools. See it. Know that anytime there's going to be an error, you'll see it down here. You'll keep clicking clear it, but you'll have clarity on that. Say we wanted to do option 2, right? Well, I'm going to apply option 2 just to the go button for now, so that you have context here. So option 2 was grab all the elements of a class of bulb and set their BGC to black. So I'm going to do this. This is go, so only go light needs to be set here. So I'm going to get rid of these and do this. Dot bulb dot CSS background black. Right? So I just kind of got, let's make sure it works, right? Boom, 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 right? I just was able to get rid of at least one line of code in each function, right? I'm thinking more efficiency here. One line of code is one less line of code to screw up. It's one less line of code to type. When you have an application with thousands of lines, if I can cut out 100 lines of redundancy, we're going to get more, at least, efficiency in how we view our code, how the code performs. Okay, so this would be option 2. Grab them all, and then grab the thing. Versus here, it was kind of like focus on the thing. Like you didn't have to put them in that order too. Like it was like grab the first one and set it to yellow, and then grab the other 2. Right? It doesn't really matter the order of these, because in the end you're targeting each one unique. This, the order is important, because if I was to put this below that, well, that would mess things up, right? So this works, Go doesn't work anymore, right? Go doesn't work because I switched the order. So in JavaScript, it's like grab the go light, turn it green, and then grab all the buttons and turn them black, right? I just undid. You don't see it turn green. It happens so fast, like millisecond fast. Your eyes cannot see it happen. It's like, and it's gone. So we don't want that. Okay, so this is important. The order of things is important. So the order of events. And once again, the order of events are important because we're writing down the order of the things that we're doing. We're trying to think this thing through. Do it like this, do it like that. Okay, so these are all important. Okay. Did anyone hit any major like roadblocks besides jQuery not loading? How many got stumped with jQuery not being loaded? Okay, a few, right? So let that be the lesson, that it doesn't happen again. Because there's going to be times I'm like, do it. I'm either going to forget that jQuery is not installed. I think some of them have it. Sometimes it gets removed for whatever reason. So just immediately look, okay? Once again, when you're working on your project, I won't be there to be like, oh, that's the error. Fix this thing over here, okay? Sweet.
I didn't have quotes around like the color.
Okay, did you get errors?
It kept saying like that color was not defined.
Yes. Okay. And we saw that before, right? We saw when green wasn't defined, console login, so we demoed it. It's one of those things. You do it, 5 minutes later, you're like, I don't know what the hell that thing's happening yet. So it's okay. The more it happens, the less it'll happen, right? But you really want to kind of avoid that whole thing. All right. We're done with that. We're going to move on to doing something, I don't know, maybe a little more fun. Okay? So what I want to emulate here is when we click on these little buttons, the thing changes. This is going to be something more practical towards your projects. Let me just see, do I have the solution here? I don't have it there. But we do have it in our single page app thing right here. Single page app, boom. Right? Look, I click on a button, it changes things, right? You changes the background color, I can change the background image. I can change the text. We did that, right? When we did jQuery, we took Mars, we got rid of stuff, and we re-added the things there, right? This content is already there. We don't have to create it. We just have to update it, okay? So how would we update it? So let me select this out. It's kind of cool. This is where things start to get cool, start to get more interactive, right? Creating a stoplight is a lesson in how to use those things. Taking out all like the visuals, it's just that easy. Now let's,
This might be something you want to do on your project. Somebody incorporated this same thing on their project. Okay? I think I had shown that we do have the previous projects here, right? So previous final projects. There's a spreadsheet. You can take a look, take some ideas if you want. I'm just looking for who had it. And then it's I forgot who had it already. I think it was one of these. Enos, no, Melissa, Zane. No. No. I forgot. All right. I'll have to find it later. Clearly forgot who had it. It's in one of those. So let's go here. Here's our, we're going to create a little, emulate a slider. It's not a slider. We're going to click on a circle, right? This isn't a slider. This is kind of more like, I don't know, single page app kind of thing. Still, we could have made this thing go right and we could slide through it. I don't really like that effect. I don't like the slider. I kind of like to click and just see the thing. Sliding gives me motion. I don't like that. Like when I went to the Mars site earlier, you know, I'm always looking at this thing trying to improve what I got. And I'm like, oh, that's great. You know, they have the slider. You can slide between the images. And then if I click on the first one, it just goes really quick. If I click on the last one, oh no, here we go. If I click on this one, it's like jarring. I don't like jarring. So here we go. What do we need to do? What's the first thing you need to do? Hey, we just got this project, just came down. What do you need to do? What? Write out some steps, right? I like that. That would be the first thing. Probably also investigate the CSS. This isn't the traffic light, so there's quite a bit more going on here, right? I'd have to see, what are these buttons? Where are those buttons? Where do they exist? What are those element names? I don't know what they are. I'm going to go here. I do know what they are. And they are on line 40 to 43, bullet 1, bullet 2, bullet 3, and bullet 4. Really easy. They are class names, right? Once again, since these are really unique, they should probably be what? There's not going to be another bullet 2. They should be IDs, right? So when I wrote this, I was just kind of getting it done. It works, but if I had to go back now, I would use IDs to target things because there's not going to be another bullet 2. There's only going to be one bullet, and that's the only bullet that exists. But now we know the IDs, or the classes. Bullet 2, bullet 3, bullet 4, bullet 1. These are some images. These are the images to the thing. So if I take a look at this image, just pull it up here. Here's an image. All right, that's curiosity. And the other one is inset. Once again, I just went to the Mars site. They're always changing their stuff. It's Mars, and that's another picture. 2 different pictures, right? You can go to Mars and get as many images as you want. You can steal their images, nobody cares. All right, so we're here. So our thought process would be what? What are we thinking? How are we going to do this? How do we do it? Grab the buttons, right? Now, I only have 2 images. I'm only bouncing between these 2. That's all we're going to do, right? Bounce between the 2 that I have. Since 1 is already chosen, it's really 2 that we should grab at this moment. We can go back and add 1. But once again, we should probably grab all the buttons, at least the first 2, because those are the 2 we're going to be flipping back, right? All right, so I like that. So maybe create variables for, you know, the buttons. Okay, so here are the buttons using their class name, right? Or using their corresponding class name, right? That's what I would do. Okay. Create variables, I'm spelling it. Corresponding names. Okay. Create the variables. Cool. So I'm going to kind of roll things up. Instead of like setting, we're going to kind of roll things up. Create it and set it at the same time. So we don't have to keep writing this out. Okay. Then what are we going to do?
I have 3 variables that are defined that have those 2 buttons. What do we do? Add, there we go, add click events, right? That's what you're gonna say, add click events to each of the buttons, right? And sets and have the functions do the following. Okay, set, now you have to know, like if I grabbed that button, I already know the background image needs to be changed, right? Grab the, I think it's the header. I think that's where the image is. The image is in the header. So grab the header and set the background image, right, to the corresponding image. I don't want to have to keep writing that. Set the, right? Grab the, whatever this box is, right? This box, we go into the header. Here's a nav. I'm going to collapse the nav. Grab the blurb, H1. So let's just say grab the H1, right? If there were multiple H1s here, you'd want to like be very specific. So grab the H1, maybe that's in the blurb, and set its HTML to, you know, yada, 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 whatever it is. I don't know what it is, right? We'll just mix up some stuff as we go, okay? All right. Grab the div, right? Div that's in blurb, and set its HTML to the same, to different yada. Yada. Okay? Yada. Okay? That's pretty much it. I mean, we could probably leave the button the same. Here, the button does change. So see how it's more, and the button changes. That was right off the Mars site. If you went to the Mars site, and we did this, you would see that at times, the buttons, that one doesn't have a button, that one has a button. That has a button. I'm just seeing if it changes. The buttons don't seem to change for this one. No, but this one says view image. So depending on what thing you're working with, okay? Sometimes even these things move to another side of the page. One of these goes all the way to the right. Yeah, see this? This wrapper moves to the right. So depending on which one we clicked on, we might have to add additional CSS to say, hey, position right, 0, right? And get it to the right. We're not interested in that. We just want to change text, make this really cool, okay? I think we have what we need, right? I think so. And are we missing anything? Does anyone feel like we're missing? He's just going to take my word, right? It's just going to be like, he knows what he's doing. All right, so let's create the variables for the buttons. Let's, what are my names of my buttons again? Button 1, bullet 1. So I have here bullet 1 is equal to, and grab the thing with a class of bullet 1. Okay? This is really how you should write CSS. So we didn't really emphasize that, but in JavaScript you write variables like this. In CSS, you don't emulate this construct here. You would kind of separate things with dashes. Okay? That's what I tried to do here. So I have bullet 1. Awesome. Let's bullet 2 is equal to bullet 2, right? Easy enough. We have our 2 bullets. Okay. Check. Number 6 done. Right? The first thing is done. We're on to the second. Add click events to each of the buttons and have the functions do the following, right? I didn't even say here add functions. I'm just kind of like jumping the gun on things, but let's add our functions. So hey, bullet, just gonna move this up now because we don't really need that, right? Bullet 1 dot click, and we got to call a function, right? Maybe bullet 1 change. Bullet 1 activated. Maybe that's it. I'm just trying to get some semantic names that are different. So if I have bullet 1 activated, right, I could do this. Oh no, this is not, that's just a click event. I'm gonna do this. Maybe copy this, paste it here, paste it here. And just for the sake of things, say, hey, bullet 2, right? Once again, typing everything out. Oh, see, you gotta make sure you type it out correctly, right? So now I have 2 things. Now, the fact that these don't exist yet, would we have errors now? Right? If I went to, oh, that's what we should be. Go to developer tools.
You're also creating bullet 2.
Bullet 2.
Last line. Last line.
Oh, yeah. So I'm missing that T there, so that would error out as well, right? There we go. Good looking out. Okay, and I do hear bullet 1 is not defined and bullet 2 is not defined. That's what these errors are going to be, right? Bullet 1 is not defined. Bullet 2. So let's create those functions. Function, bullet 1 activated. Okay. I'm also going to just create the other function just to have the structure. Function, bullet 2 activated. There we go. Once again, creating the patterns. You see the patterns now. So you know what to look for. 2 variables, 2 click events, 2 functions. Once again, we'll write the efficiencies.
Would you see it written more like this, or how it is in the past here?
When you organize them, I might wind up doing something more like this to kind of push my functions down. I don't like to have my functions kind of up towards the top. I like to keep my functions towards the bottom and write all my logic up top. So all my kind of code that doesn't need to be called in these little tiny unique little things, I kind of push that down. So a lot of the times this stuff will be all the way down there, and this will just be the logic of what my application really needs to get done, and functions are just helper things that get it done. Okay? There's different ways to write these functions too. We could store them in variables. If we do that, they have to be at the top, but this is the easiest way to go. All right, so bullet 1's activated. What do we do? Well, let's do bullet 2 because bullet 1 already has this, right? And you can see this little thing kind of insinuates that that's bullet 1 and that's what bullet 1 should be. So let's just jump to bullet 2. What do we need to do? Grab the H1 that's in the blurb and set its HTML. So let's do this. Let's grab the H1. Now I want to do this. Maybe there's more than one H1s. There's probably not. But what if I said blurb space H1? Just as we can target CSS and be very specific in our CSS, jQuery allows us to do that too. This tells me that only grab the H1 that's in blurb, right? That's all I'm grabbing. Okay, if this was like paragraphs, you can have lots of paragraphs on your page. You can have lots of divs. You can be very specific about where these things are. And we want to do HTML, right? Oh, we're doing the HTML first. We'll just leave this for right now, and I'll go back to the first one because I didn't see the first one. Grab the header and set its background. So let's do that. I'm going to say grab the header. It's just a class name, right? You can have multiple headers. So if we did have multiple headers here, I'd probably want to be like, well, this header is in a div of container. So maybe we should, just to be really specific, hey, for the container that has a header, let's just make sure we're on point, right? You can even do this. For a container that has a direct child of header. This is just CSS. This means the header is a direct child, not a header that's like nested 10,000 divs deep. And now we can say, what do we want to do? .css, because we want to change the background color, the background. What are we changing? Background image. And what are we changing that to? Well, how do we change a background image? Once again, if you don't know the particular path for a background image, we'll just take a look. Where's Where's the background image here? Oh, look, it has a URL and it has the thing in it, right? So that's our construct, URL. All right, so I'm going to say, all right, cool. So it looks like I need to have URL. And then I'm going to have quotes to add the URL, right? Just following what a background image does. Okay? And then the question is, where's the image? I have the image right here. This is curiosity, so I believe it's going to be insight. Is it right? I'm just going to make sure. That's the other picture, right? Oh, yeah, that's the other picture. So I'll go back here. Let's go down here and just paste that in there. So let me expand this out so you see the whole thing, right? Grab the container, the header, CSS background image. We're going to do this URL. That should change it, right? I'm going to get rid of my errors. I'm going to save this. I'm just going to refresh to see if I have any errors. I saw some errors, but that could have been as I was typing. No errors, so my code is legit up to this point. Maybe I didn't grab the thing, whatever. But what if I click on this? Oh, snap, look, just change the background color. Background colors changed. Now, this did what? What was this doing? What is it doing right now, though? It's not changing anything right now. So it's which one? Getter, right? Setter, we would have to put text in there, right? So this is for insight, and we could say, well, after reset curiosity is blah, blah, blah. We can say whatever we want right now. This is about curiosity, right? This is about insight. Insight lands on, is that like a rover? Insight lands on Mars and works. And here we go. And finds life. That's the day we're looking for, right? And Mars is like, they found a little thing. Anyone see the, I think it's a Hulu series called First? It's got Sean Penn in it. Oh, it's really kick-ass. It's really awesome. They go to Mars. They're the first people that go to Mars. And lots of bad stuff happens, obviously. Like things just break and blah, blah, blah. But they find life. Tiny little thing that they activate. And the thing moves a little bit. And they're like, life. Okay. So if we do this again, if I click on it again, look, Insight lands on Mars and finds life. Let's grab that div, right? Because we did say that we want to grab the div that's in Blurb and said it's HTML to a different yada, 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 right? So you can put whatever you want. I'll say, hey, Blurb div, right? Because there's only one div in there. Oh, you know what the div actually has? The div has something that we should target. It's class. It has a class of description, right? There's only one div in there, but in all honesty, we should probably say dot description because that thing is very specific, right? And then just say dot HTML and say the world goes crazy. I want you can put whatever you want. Life on Mars. Say what? Doesn't matter what you type. I do this. There we go. It changes. Pretty cool. So, we're good with that? What I want you to do now is change it, add a button, fill in the click event for the first button and change it back to its original text. And background color, all of the original text is right here in the HTML because that's what got loaded. Its background image is either in the CSS or at the very top of the JavaScript file. Can you just populate bullet 2, once again, all I'm asking you to do is get me back to my original page.
And if you do get that, the bonus would be when you do click on that second button, make it the highlighted button. It's kind of like stoplight. Okay? Okay, just put a thumbs up there. When you do get it, just click on the thumbs up.
Hmm. Darren, were you able to change the buttons?
That's what I was trying to figure out.
So here's a little.
Kind of misunderstood.
Okay.
Because I thought you meant more like that.
Oh yeah. It's not what I meant. It's okay. All right. It's good. I mean, the easiest approach to this would have been to just copy paste, make the changes, right? That's what I did. I copy pasted. We're tackling the same content. Copy paste, grab the background image, change the background. Look in the HTML, grab the H1, put the H1. Grab the description text, put the description text. Okay? So we'll give you another moment. If you haven't done it, do it. But once again, what's up? You in DevTools? I can move it. DevTools, better view. Well, get rid of all the errors. Click on the little circle and click on that. There you go. Now save. Refresh. I want to see any of those errors. Okay, bullet one. We got bullet one with lowercase. Oh, see bullet one.
Oh, I have to go for page one?
That's probably what your reference. Right, the name you can bullet one here is uppercase. Bullet one here. But that doesn't have to be uppercase. That stays there. That one. Yeah, that's how we wrote it. Okay. You still get refresh, save. If you still get the error, shoot me your pen and I can pull it up and we can kind of work through some, at least something to troubleshoot. Are you having errors?
Yeah, well, not really there.
Okay. Answer the question. Yeah. We didn't cover that. I said, like, can you figure that out? This was the kind of thing. All right. So here we go. We have it. The one thing that I guess when I was looking up here, I'm going to refresh the page. I want you to pay attention to, let me see, is it going to change anything? Let's see if anything changes here. Does it look the same? No, it does look the same. All right. I thought we had here's my issue. What's inside the H1? An anchor tag, right? I should be able to click on the anchor tag. Now, I'm going to verify that in my HTML. I'm just going to go to Developer Tools. I want you to see how HTML can affect something. If I go to Developer Tools and I hover over the H1, I see that it's H1 with an anchor. Clearly, it's an H1 with an anchor. If I click on this second button, does the H1 have an anchor anymore? No. H1 says, you want me to wipe out any HTML that was inside that thing and replace it? And we're like, yeah, okay, hey, you had an anchor tag in there, you replace it anyway. So this should be what? How would we fix this? What would we target here? Yeah, just the anchor, right? I make one little adjustment in both places and do the blurb with an H1 of anchor, and that should fix it. Okay? It's just a tiny little thing. I go back here and I highlight the H1. It has an anchor. If I go here, it maintains its anchor. So what you target is important. HTML is about replacing HTML. HTML can just be like text inside of a paragraph or an H1, or it could be a whole section of stuff that just disappears because you replaced it with something else. Okay? Did anyone figure out the bullets? So you did opacity. So how about, did you do it using JavaScript? Okay.
So I did bullet to CSS, opacity F1.
Okay. Okay. That's a good approach, right? And we're probably doing the same thing in CSS as part of, which class here do you think controls what the bullet looks like or highlights it? Look at the 4 bullets, and I'm just going to refresh it again. Look at the 4 bullets. Of the 4 bullets, what stands out to indicate that there's something different? The first bullet, right? And it has a class of bullet selected. I think what you're doing is like you're grabbing in, you're resetting CSS. What we probably want to do here is add a class to this thing, right? We did do add class last class. We just added a class. What if I wanted to remove a class? What do you think the method would be? Remove class, right? Add class, remove class. This stuff becomes really intuitive after a while. So if we know that bullet 2 should add a class, right? And then if we click on this one, we should add the class, right? Which means also that if I add a class to this one, what should I make sure happens to the other bullets? And this is where we did the option 2, right? Where I said grab all the stoplights and set them to black, right? What if I grab all of the bullets, right? And I do remove class bullet selected. Remove the class, add the class, right? So I'm just going to say this. I want to make sure it works, right? But it still didn't remove the class. Oh, because I forgot the dots because it's class, right? Now that I did this, I made the change. Watch what happens. Boom. It removes it, right? I would take the same thing here, come up here, paste it, and all you have to do is change bullet 2 to bullet 1, right? And you will get the effect every time you click. It's pretty cool, right? It's that easy. Try to target it with classes because that's what the classes are doing. Like active is usually a class name that you would use, okay? Pretty cool, right? This is clearly something you can incorporate into your project. So if you had ideas about some big, header where you had images there and you want to like click on it, maybe go to different images, you want to highlight your portfolio projects, awesome. You don't want to do it there, you can do it further down, you can do it as smaller things, as larger things, however you want to do it. The ability to do this, you now have it. And it's a pretty cool tool to have, okay? The solution, yeah, the solution is in the original starter code that I select. Did I not slack it out? Did I not slack it out? Oh, man, sorry. I thought this whole time, everyone, you went to the Trello board though and got it, right? It was like, all right. Next time tell me, I just completely forgot. I got all excited because this was a fun one. You got a question?
Yeah. So the bullets at the bottom
Yeah.
and the arrows, in theory, will have the same JavaScript action. So do you replicate that, or do you just? So if I hit on the second button, and
Yeah.
I hit on the arrow.
Oh yeah, we would have to tie those two together. Well, this one, remember, is going to slide. The minute you have this, you're insinuating things are going to slide, right? I don't necessarily like this. I don't think having a slider and little circles is the best approach to that website. It seems redundant, Like, what should I use? Should I use the slider or should I use the buttons? Like, what's the purpose of putting both there? I don't really see the benefit, but this needs to now have additional logic to say, what slide are you on? And I have to go to the next slide. So this requires additional logic based on position.
But ultimately, the function, the bottom function will be the same.
No, the bottom function needs different logic. Yeah, I'm gonna have two functions here, one attached to each, and they have to know what's the active image. Man, in here, yes, that's what you mean. Yeah, the inner workings of the function will be the same, but there's additional logic to know. I'm on slide 1. I clicked on this thing. I have to increment it to slide 2. If you click on this one, I got to decrement it to slide 1. So, all right, let's do this. Let's take a 5-minute break. When we come back, we'll jump into the next lab. And okay, 5-minute break. Put here 5 minutes. Sweet.
I have a question
Sure,
about the Mars.
sure.
So if we look at the HTML,
Okay.
the bullet selected only is applied to bullet 1.
Correct.
So how does it work that we can apply the bullet selected to bullets 2 and 3?
So what happens is I'm removing the bullets. So here I remove the bullets from all, I remove this class. That's a class.
So, yeah.
And so I can remove that class in JavaScript. I'm removing it completely. In the DOM, under this virtual
Yeah,
representation,
but you can only remove it from bullet 1, right?
I can remove it from everyone. How do I know which bullet has bullets left? You're the JavaScript.
Isn't bullet 1 connected to the bullet selected?
Well, it's assigned there by default. But I can remove
Oh.
that at any point in time I want. Right? When this page loads,
Okay.
this bullet is going to be assigned to it because the default page has bullet 1 as the default thing. But in the virtual DOM, remember, there's like area over here. Once this page gets loaded, we're not manipulating this HTML in the file. We're manipulating the HTML that lives in the elements tab. And so the ability to remove the class from all of them and then add the class to this one is how we can use it.
It's pretty cool stuff. What's up?
So with HTML, I think it was similar to the last question, but how would you change this text? So,
Oh, the text is right here. You grab the element that has the text, and you do HTML and just give it new text.
it's not H1.
Well, this is the H1,
Yeah,
but this is not the
the
H1,
blurb,
right?
okay.
What are you trying to change?
This,
Yeah, that's paragraph. That's this text here. So if you take a look at the HTML, you'll see that the H1 contains this, and this div contains the text.
okay.
So you have to target that thing to give it the new text.
What if I want to change this part?
Well, that's the H1.
The H1, yeah.
Well, you're already targeting the H1.
Yeah, but it didn't change Mars website.
Oh, it did not? Shoot me your code.
Okay.
Just shoot it to me, and I'll take a look right now. We'll pull it up. image shows. So this is yours. And you're saying if you click on this, the background image changes, but not the text, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see what's going on. So bullet 2. Oh, that's, maybe you didn't save it, but you don't have anything in here. You just changed the background images.
Oh, yeah, maybe I didn't.
Yeah, that's why. The background image works, but not the text. So you have to grab those corresponding elements. Yeah. It needs to include all of this. I slacked that out too, so you have the full solution. Okay. Good stuff. All right. 51. Okay. Oop. That was our 5-minute window there. All right. So let's go to, here you go, another site that you all know and love, right? I love Food Sense, right? It's your perfect opportunity now to emulate the Food Sense functionality. So let's pull up our favorite Food Sense site. Okay. What do you think we're emulating on this page? What are you going to be doing? What do you think, based on what we just did with models? What's changing? Yeah, the picture, right? The picture changes, the text changes, right? Okay. How do you control that? Well, this thing is on like an automatic thing. We're not going to worry about the automatic thing, but if I click, it changes. Click, it changes. This is your opportunity to kind of re-implement this design. So in here, I have all of the images. So I went to their site and downloaded all their images, right? Uploaded them to my Cloudinary account. I have Tastemakers blog, A-list, and Contribute, and those all represent. This is fully responsive as well. So if I expand this, Tastemakers blog, A-list, and Contribute. They're all there. They're all here. Here's the text. I mean, I forgot what the text is. You'll have to go back to the site or make your own text. I don't really care. But your job is to add the code to target each one of these, right? If you can get just 2, then you've gotten it, right? After that point, it's just like target this and do the same thing. Copy, paste, change the text and image, right? So as of right now, this is, I believe, to contribute. That's the contribute one. I like that image most, so I made that the image I wanted to see. I didn't add the active here. There is no active here, so it's not like highlighted, so we'll add that. So your job is to look through here. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at the HTML to see what you need to target. There's Tastemakers, feature 1, feature 2, feature 3, feature 4. Okay, so these things right here, what do they represent? What do you think they represent? Just look at the naming convention of these things. From line 37 to, I don't know, 64, what is that? Huh?
I don't know what your list said.
All right, but what are they representing here?
The nav bar.
Where's the nav bar? This. Yeah, that's what I want. There is another nav bar here. If I expand this, this is another nav as well. So I just kind of want to be clear. We're targeting these things. And if we expand feature 1, we would see Tastemakers, but we don't see the feast your eyes. Oh, this would be eyes on the thing, right? So if I expand this, watch, because this is all responsive. So the text here disappears at a low when it's much smaller, but these stay, right? What are we targeting here then? What would you add the event listener to? The LI.
the ID of feature 1, the ID of feature 2. These are the things that you're targeting. That's the thing I click on. I click on this whole box, right? I click on this whole box. I'm not going to target just this little text, right? That would be crazy. This whole thing gets targeted. So you are going to target feature 1. That's the whole thing. Okay? And with feature 1, right, when you click on feature 1, you're going to do, if I pull up the Mars site, everything that's here. Simulated. Remember when I said when we create something, you do almost identically the same thing, it's just different wording? Identically the same thing, different wording. So I'm going to leave this on the screen to give you the direction you need, but you are going to be doing this. Did I not slack it out? No, I did not slack it. Did I? All right. Here you go. Ready? There it is. All the images are there. Just get the first 2. You don't have to move this thing anywhere. It can stay right there. Just change the text to either what we have, to anything you want, or go back to the, food sense side and pull the text there. Okay? So you're going to add your code here, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to put that over there, put this over here, and you should, from here, be able to do it. We work through pseudocode. So in all honesty, the pseudocode that we had here, pretty legit. Might work for that too, just with a few tweaks. If no pseudocode, follow that pattern, and you will build the thing. Okay? So we're giving 20 minutes for this.
Hmm. This is another instance where jQuery was not loaded. You would have seen that in your developer tools immediately. But I noticed that there's an issue with the images. I don't know. Yeah. It's saying that it should be, even though it is HTTPS here, so it's saying the page URL was loaded over HTTPS, but requested an insecure image URL. The content should also, I mean, it is being served over HTTPS. This is S. And we're able to do the Mars, but that was a background image. I'm just thinking because this is an image tag. I mean, it does flip it. Once again, if I save this, if you do it again, it just gives you the bad URL. So this is, it does, and then it breaks. So this is an issue. I don't know. I'm going to see if I get, I'm just going to try testing something. I'm going to see if I get rid of the HTTP, but I don't think that that's, yeah, that doesn't work either. You still get the same error. This time it doesn't break, but it doesn't work the way we want it to work. All right. So in the code pen, I'm just going to, if I went to live view, I don't think this would change anything here. If I went to live view, still would do the same thing. You would see it, and then we go back. So this is an issue with CodePen. This wouldn't happen if you were spinning this up as a local file, or if we did it as a background image. So I think this, essentially, right, if we try to do this, we know that the image is broken, right? At this point in time, we'd be like, all right, image is broken, but we could try to still change the text. So even though we're kind of stuck at, the thing doesn't work with the image. All right, I can at least attempt now to change maybe the text. So, oh, you know why? Because it's refreshing the page. So if you did target the text, so the same thing that where it's changing the picture and then it changes it right back, the page itself is refreshing. It's trying to fix it. So this has issues. So if I'm going to go back and use this, I didn't test this out. I just, once again, assumed this was going to work as normal as the other things. I thought, in all honesty, that this really was a background image. I haven't really worked. We did the mobile responsive, but I haven't taken a look at the inner workings of this thing. And I was like, this is going to be perfect. It's going to be the same thing, right? Not the same thing. It's a little different. If you were able to, so you did hit the issues, right? Were you able to get this far? Because this is what you needed to do. If you got this far, that's the lesson here, right? The fact that it's refreshing may be also a good lesson when you approach your project, right? Know that when you approach your project, do little one-offs to see. Don't build the whole structure and be like, damn, the code pen's broken. I can't do it like this, right? So maybe I would have built a little image tag, flip the switch, and be like, oh, this doesn't work. So it could have been better if we did maybe, once again, I don't know if this would be, here's the thing, right? So it's an image source, and it's inside this section. So maybe if I did the section, right, if I got rid of this image, and I targeted this section, just for the sake of testing this out. I just want to say, because if that's the case, then I would go back. I was emulating the actual site, their site. That's how they had it set up. And this was a great example of doing positioning, right? We did this with positioning, putting an image in positioning text. It's a great example of positioning, but then we run into this thing. So instead of doing that, I would target this thing, this whole thing here, which is section with an ID of slide, which all I have to do is maybe change this with an ID of slide 1. I'm just going to see if this works. No. And it didn't work? No, then there's something else going on. We're not getting any, oh no, here, I'm getting errors, so let me take a look. Just gonna make sure I don't have any, yeah. See, I'm getting this error. If I get this error, how do you troubleshoot this? What do? You know, you don't just look at it and go, what's going on? You go to the right over here, there's a little link, click on the link, and then it tells you where in your code is the problem. Line 14, there's a problem here, okay? So it's intuitive, it's trying to walk in. It doesn't tell you what it is, but it's like, slide, oh, here, I'm missing a quote right there, right? So you just have to look at it. It's a squiggly line. So if I go back here and I'm like, add a quote, awesome. Let me just see now, does it work? No. Am I getting any errors here? It's still doing the mixed content. I find it really odd that it's doing that
because we were able to do the Mars, and I'm pulling the same, for the Mars site, I'm pulling them from the same cloud and area count. Everything's the same, so I'm finding it really odd that this thing is still tripping up, even though I got rid of the image tag here, right? I got rid of it. I think I got rid of it, and it's still tripping up. So I don't know why this has happened, to be all honest. I don't know why. Well, I'm going to add the S back here. Maybe it was the S. Let me see. And it's not, oh, and it's not SRC now. It's background, right? I have to change this. Image, and this has to be changed to be single quotes, URL, and then double quotes, and I have to take this. So once again, if I'm changing the thing, hold on.
Would it still be HTTR with the CSS?
And this would be CSS, you're right. We'd have to change this to be CSS. So this would be background images. Let me just pull it all in one shot here. I just want to see if it works. If it works, I'm going to maybe update the code to change it to this construct here. That it would be a really cool lab. Let's try that. Let's just, once again, workarounds. Point. Oh, and it still does it. I don't know why that's happening. This is really weird because once again, the Mars images are coming from the same cloud and area count. I really can't explain why this would be happening when the other two are working perfectly fine. Okay? I'm going to try to figure it out. And honestly, I really want to know why one is not working and the other is working. It just doesn't make any sense. Right? I'm going to, when I troubleshoot this stuff, this is what I would do. I would grab the Mars image. Like, I want to truly know what's happening. These are the same, these are Mars images, right? We did background image. I would go back to the food sense site here and maybe change this image. I don't know if it's maybe something wrong with the way that image was copied over. I don't really know. So what you do is you play the game. You change a thing. If the image works there, but it doesn't work here, are we doing something wrong here? No.
I think it's because the images of the CSS are linking to the website itself.
Okay. Oh, here we go. Background image. So here, let's get rid of these. Here, I'm just going to get rid of those, and let's take a look. Did you test it out? I'm just curious. Let's. Yeah, it still breaks it. Yeah, it goes and it comes back. Like, I don't really know what's happening there. This is one of those things. You do this enough times, you just assume the background images are going to work, but in this instance, they don't work. Okay, we'd have to figure out why this is happening, and I'm going to take a look because I really. Pages HTTPS was loaded over HTTPS but requested an insecure image. Yeah, it's still saying it's requesting this insecure image. So unless I have something else in here where, here we go, here's the background. Okay, there we go. I think I nailed all the images. All right, so here, let's try. No. Let me get rid of this. And just one more test. If it doesn't work, we're going to wrap it up anyway. It's not doing it. It's like almost, and then it's back. So I don't really know. I have to work through this and see where else. We're not getting the errors, but it's just not sticking. So I don't have the answer. But once again, if you could get this, you understand exactly what we were trying to do, right? This is really the lesson. Not happy that it didn't work. But nice. I was super excited about this too. I was like, oh, we're going to do Mars, and then we're going to do this. They've been working on it. It's going to be great. Not as good as I thought. But think about this. When you're working on your project, you're going to run into these same things, right? When you do hit something like this, send it to me. Do a little research, but send it to me. Don't spend 3 hours like, I don't know why it worked. Like, you may not know why it's not working. I may be able to be like, boom, this is why. Okay? That's going to happen a lot. I can see like a flaw, oh, do this. Trust me. I'll be able to figure things out. And I will figure what's happening. I just don't have the answer right now. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, so you got the Mars side. That was pretty good, guys. All right. Let me go over the homework. So, here, We did then listeners. We did that. The only thing we didn't do was this one here, and we'll do that next class. We'll grab the input. Okay. I didn't assume. When we do JavaScript, I threw in the second lab, and I was like, oh, we're gonna have enough time, and I didn't get to this. But I thought the Mars thing was so cool, and we could just push this into the next class instead of doing like a to-do list. You got something really effective now. So for the homework, for this week's homework, your designs should have been done. I know some haven't submitted them. Maybe it's still up here. That's fine. Get it down here, right? So you can start working on it. So this weekend, you would be working on implementing the responsive layout. Try to shoot for mobile first. That's what I want. Try to make it mobile, okay? You'll be able to see the site on your phone. You can send yourself the URL, and you can open it on your phone. So try to make it responsive, mobile first, build out from that. If you have not completed the jQuery section, do everything in the jQuery. Keep doing the JavaScript stuff, just keep doing. Don't stop. And then here, this is the other thing I wanted you to complete, Dash. So as part of the pre-work, you had to complete the first thing in Dash, correct? This? Did anybody go on to do this, and this, and this, and this? Probably not, right? All right. So what I want you to do is build this JavaScript game here. I'm going to just go to it because I have it. See, they're using jQuery, 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 right? And what this game is it's, what's the game again? Mad Libs. So, I don't know why. Run the JavaScript. Okay. See, is it not working? Mine's not working. It says great job, but it's not working. What it would be is Mad Libs. It would capture some text that you type in and then output something on the screen. I don't know why mine's not working now. I did test it out earlier. It doesn't work. So they walk you through this. You already know how it is. It's just like, oh, now it works. Yeah. Here, type your name, Joe, next, adjective. Is that green? Green spelled correctly? I can't spell it all. Noun, I don't know, hat. I'm just making stuff up. Okay, the story of Joe and the green hat. That's it. That's what it produces. Okay? It'll walk you through everything, and you'll be able to create something dynamic like that. Clicking, storing. There's a lot of JavaScript in here that we will get to. There'll be things in here that you have not done that you're just going to be like, I don't really know what they're doing. But there's things like storing variables, setting them to 0, incrementing them. You do cover val, which we will cover, okay? It's pretty intuitive what to do, and then we'll cover some of that in depth next week, okay? It's a cool app to do. Awesome. What you'd wind up doing is, in order to know that you did it, create a code pin and copy that code into the appropriate places, and then submit the code pin. So I know you did it, okay? Once again, it would just be a matter of copying and pasting code, right? Here's the HTML, here's CSS, put it in the appropriate places, add jQuery, so you know it works, and then all your code should work. Like copy this and did it, should work like a piece of cake, except things like this, where it says assets jQuery, you don't have that. So you're gonna error out, but if you include jQuery, as in the little gear icon, it will work. They'll just be like, hey, we don't have an assets folder, so it's not gonna work. Who cares? I'm just gonna go to little gear icon here and add jQuery, and it will work, okay? Cool? All right, what do we got? 4 minutes for exit tickets. Exit tickets. Hit me up with your Heather. Did you do it? Look, this is on point. Exit tickets. In the little gear icon.
Like where it says where it says script.
For our purposes right now, you can just go here, type in jQuery, and you'll find it.
Yeah, so you copy it, right, but you paste it into your,
Oh, so all for the code pens, as of right now, this is all you'd have to do.
just go to it, and save it.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't have to add it in the HTML for the sake of using the code pens.
Oh, okay.
Okay, for
So
your
just
project you
search
do,
it.
but your project already has it, because we already did that.
Oh, okay.
Okay, when we set up the projects, the final project,
Mhm.
we imported jQuery, so it's already there for you.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Thanks.
So we constantly refresh, so the things you click on.
It shouldn't refresh. That's,
Just a weird error. That's how-
yeah, you know what I think?